Hi there, this is my R1250 RS Sport, which I recently bought, and I decided to pull the battery out. It was a little bit of an effort to try and put this plastic plate back in. So the idea is to, when you take these things out, look carefully at how it's done, and that gives a clue as to how it's got to go back in. So first of all, take this off, of course, and then to actually extract the battery out of the frame, you've got to pull this plate off. So the way to do that is just get a finger underneath here, right? And then pull up, okay, and out at the same time. Now what you'll notice is when you do that, it actually lifts the battery out partially, okay? The battery actually needs to go back in there, essentially. But to put this plastic plate back into position, the battery has to be back out into its outward position. Okay, it has to be sitting on that lip. It has to be sitting on that lip at the bottom and not all the way in. The whole idea of that motion that I just demonstrated is to partially bring the battery out so that you can then undo that and then pull all the battery all the way out and then undo the positive terminal. Once you've got it back in though, there's a bit of a trick into putting it back in, putting this plate back on, which you might be fighting with. What you've got to do is you have to place that tab here at the bottom. See that tab at the bottom, which has got a locating pin. This here, that there is a locating pin that has to be inserted underneath the battery, okay, and then slid in at the same time. At the same time, see these hooks here, right? These hooks here, right, have to be located into these holes, right, on the side, on either side, right? There's another one there, and that may have been pretty obvious to you when you first went and did this, but there's a bit of a trick putting it back on, and it has to be done in one motion. Here's the battery partially out, the locating tab with the locating pin on the bottom, right? You have to push that in there, and the same way you took it out just about, you have your hand and your thumb there, right? And then you lift and in, it has to locate in, and at the same time you have to try and get these side pins in located as well, okay? And then you just drop it and it's in, all done. You put this strap back on and away you go. And then you put the side cover back on. So it's basically another one motion job to put it all back in place. And when you put it in, it pushes the battery in all the way down into the shelf, and at the same time you've got to look at these side locating pins to make sure they're going in the hole. Generally, if you've done it right, it's not a problem. All good. Hopefully that's been a bit of a lesson. I found it with my BMW, this thing up here seems to have gone missing. It's a little, it's a grommet. The grommet exists in this bottom bit here. This is where the battery cover goes on and locates in here, but I don't know where this one's gone. I don't know whether it was missing or it's fallen out in the engine here somewhere. I'm gonna have to have a closer look with a torch. Why did I pull the battery out on a brand new motorcycle? Well, it's pretty simple. This is a 2020 motorcycle, compliance plated for February 2020. The battery may actually have been sitting around for quite some time. It's now December 2020. So when I looked at the voltage on the dashboard of this bike, it was showing 12.4 volts for an AGM battery, and that's the key. These are an AGM battery. 12.4 volts is a little bit low for my liking, so I pulled the battery out and put it on a charger and made sure that it was fully charged, and that when everything was disconnected, it was at rest around about 13 volts. If it starts taking a dive after you take the charger off, let it rest for a while, back down to like 12.4 volt territory, the battery may be actually a bit old. And these batteries in these motorcycles, you'd be surprised, I think, how old and how long these bikes and batteries sit around for before they actually make it to the showroom floor and they're sold. BMW recommend in their manual, you'll see it on around about page 190 for these bikes, that they recommend that you make sure that these batteries are charged, but you cannot use a third-party charger like this one. They recommend without completely disconnecting the battery and taking it out. The only way they recommend that these batteries are charged with them in situ, that is connected up, right, is by using their charger, which plugs into here. Okay, so I didn't want to, or I haven't looked for or spent the money on a genuine BMW battery charger, so I took it out, took this plate off, charged it up, found it that it was around 13 volts at rest, put it back in, had trouble going. I was sitting here for half an hour going, what the hell? Well, how does this thing go back on? And I figured once I got it back on properly, I thought some of you guys would probably appreciate seeing how such a simple thing, how such a simple task can be readily done, because keeping your battery in nick, I think, is fairly important. Take it easy.